Today's video is about a major change to Indiana gun laws. Many of you may already realize that as of July 1st, you no longer have to have a gun permit to carry a firearm in the state of Indiana. But it is so important to understand what this really means so that you do not find yourself charged with a firearm offense in the state of Indiana. So let's talk about what does change and what does not change under this new law. First, what does change is that the state of Indiana no longer requires a handgun permit to legally carry, conceal, or transport a handgun within the state. So that means if you are 18 years old and not otherwise prohibited from carrying a firearm, you may do so without a handgun permit. This takes us to the next important point, which is what does not change under this new law. This new law does not mean that everyone is now allowed to carry a handgun in the state of Indiana. If you were prohibited before, you are still prohibited. So what are some reasons a person may be prohibited from carrying a firearm? If you are a convicted felon, you may be prohibited. If you have a conviction for domestic battery, even if it's a misdemeanor, you might be prohibited. If you are under an indictment or currently on pretrial release. If you've been deemed to have a mental deficiency, if there's been a protective order against you, or even if you've been dishonorably discharged from military service. So there are a whole slew of reasons why you might be a prohibited person, and this list is not a list of all of them. So if you're not sure, one thing that you can do is still apply for a permit to see if it's granted. It's so important to know if you are prohibited, because if you carry a firearm as a prohibited person, there can be serious consequences at both the state and federal level, which include major felony charges and exposure to lengthy jail sentences. So that brings us to our next point about this new law. Can you still apply for a permit? Yes. You may be asking, why would I do that if I don't have to? Well, for starters, you may still need a gun permit to carry a firearm in other states. So if you plan to travel with your firearm, many states will allow you to do so in their state if you have a permit for your own state. You might also still apply if you want to find out if you are actually a prohibited person. Because if the state police will not issue you a permit, then you are likely a prohibited person who can't carry a gun with or without it. So what's the wisdom to take away from this video? First, be a responsible gun owner or carrier regardless of this change. Second, if you were prohibited previously, you may still be prohibited. Know the requirements of any other state, especially if you travel often, you should still get a gun permit. I cannot emphasize enough to make sure you fully understand this law. There's plenty of info out there, including the law itself, which you can go and read, and info on the state police website. You can also consult with an attorney to determine if you would be considered a prohibited person in spite of this new law. That's all for this video. If you learned something or you just enjoyed it, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want more videos from Katie the Closer TV, please subscribe for future video notifications.